Hello, everybody, and welcome to Boss Talks. We have yet another great episode today with Angela Flick. She hails from this great state of Washington that I also reside in, and she has been a part of the multifamily industry for roughly 20 years. A large part of that within the state of Washington with companies here, but also she's spread her wings and gone a part of other companies that are more national as well. But as of late, she actually became the founder of Why Not Consulting, and she is on her own. She's out doing things to make this industry better and to give her insights and her experience to more of the industry and moving it forward. So we're super excited today to have her. She recently went to I think it was the Women's Summit down in Scottsdale, Arizona, and she was a speaker there, if I remember correctly. So would love to know how that went and all things that went down there. And I know that's a great event. Obviously, I'm not invited to that, and that's okay. But I know it's a good event. I've had some of my colleagues go to it as well, and we've been a sponsor before. But today, it's all about Angela, and we're going to talk a lot about things really connected to what we do at Community Boss when it comes to prop tech. But it's finding that right solution for your community so that it's giving life to the community and the property management and not sucking them dry and really potentially causing them burn out, right? So you got to make sure the mix is right in order to actually make it more productive. So we're going to get into that for sure. And then just proper corporate overhead support and management is critical in regards to that. We're going to get into that a little bit. And then asking questions that all operators should be asking their SaaS partners. So just giving us a little bit more insight into how we can navigate these waters of prop tech that has only grown since, well, it was before 2020, but 2020 is kind of like the fire, or I guess the gasoline to the fire that really has just blown it up ever since. So it's going to be good to get into all things prop tech. But like I said, I'm Evan Happel. I'm the Community Boss, Director of Marketing. We have a great solution when it comes to managing your physical spaces, whether that's your parking, your amenities, or mapping. We can generate revenue and just make it a better experience for your residents when it comes to using that physical space. So if you have any questions about that, let me know and we'll get into it. But today it's about Angela. So let's bring it to the show. Angela,
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing great. And I bumbled a little bit. Why Not Strategic Concepts is your company.
Yes. The email, the domain is consulting. I felt like, the shorter domain name, but, so I probably confused. Yeah.
That's all good. But
Exactly.
I know you've been at it since what, the beginning of this year? A little before that?
So in April, I made the decision to jump from being at a management company, which I've been in, as you said, for almost 20 years. I've been on the management company operator side. And in April, I went out on my own.
All right.
Yeah.
And kind of a fun, I guess, as we were talking, I think a month or so ago, I got in the industry by being kind of a volunteer doing resident events at a community, and it was at a Con-Am community, and you worked for Con-Am at the same time. So our worlds kind of were like overlapped. I didn't know that because I didn't know what the heck I was doing at the time. It wasn't really that involved, but our worlds did collide, and you knew the communities that I was serving and all that. So
I love it. It's such a small world industry. And I know up here in the Seattle market, we have, the Wumfa crowd and, everybody that just really, it's just awesome, the relationships and paths that cross that you don't even realize it. And then it's awesome. That's so fun.
Absolutely. And our first call, I think we meant to have a 30-minute call, and I think it went for like an hour and a half. So
yeah. I know. I loved it. It went by so fast, but I was learning so much about what Community Boss does. And I know, we were talking about what I do and about like the industry in this area and all that. And so it was it was such an exciting call. I loved it. I could have chatted
Yeah.
all day. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was good. Yeah, I appreciated it very much.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into any more prop tech and all that good stuff, there's just a few questions I like to ask my guests just to get things warmed up and going.
Great.
One of them is related to really what we do at Community Boss, and that relates to just parking. I know you've been in the industry a long time, and so I just like to ask if there's any, whether it's a funny story, experience, or solutions that you've come to know regarding parking.
Yeah, gosh. So there was a recent one. It's not funny, but it's just like, what? Where, it was at a high rise, and the manager, they didn't have a good solution in place to manage parking. And so somehow for months, the manager was renting parking spaces to her significant other who was running a
Oh,
Turo business. So yeah, so not only does the property not have enough parking for the actual residents, they were losing parking because that was happening.
wow.
It's amazing, right? Like if you're not like super on top of parking can be a significant revenue um, enhancement, or
Right.
obviously in that case, it was a revenue detriment because it wasn't being managed properly, right, at the site. And
And they were
so,
personally benefiting.
yep, yep,
Wow.
100%. I know. So you've got all kinds of layers of issues there, all starting with parking.
Right.
So it's not super glamorous, but it's something, right, that like throughout the industry is such a huge impact. So I always think that's fascinating, and I always love the conversations with developers when developers are like, "Well, how do we get around having to add more parking?" And I'm like, "Well, are you going to come be the leasing consultant to tell the new residents that they can't park their car?" And so it's
You
hard.
can have half a car.
Yeah,
Do
half
you
a
have a half
car.
a
It's
car?
like 1.5 spaces per resident or something. They always come up with like some funny formula, yeah, on how much parking is needed. And I'm like,
Just cut it in half.
yep,
You'll be fine.
exactly. I'll share this side, you share that side. Make sure it's a small
Yeah.
car.
Yeah. 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 I mean, and I get it. It's like it's that space that's there that you're not being
Mhm.
able to make money off of potentially.
Yeah,
But
true.
that's where you could be making money off of it.
Mhm.
Granted, based on your local laws and stuff,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things like that. But
Mm.
there are opportunities where you could, and
Yep.
so if you want to know about that, you should definitely investigate, and we can help you. But
Yes.
anyways, yeah, there's lots of ways to make your parking do more for you and
Yes,
not just
100%.
take them away. I think we're
Mhm.
hoping that people will just stop driving.
Right? I know. I think that's the thing, right? Is it's like, okay, well, how many people actually drive now? And they're building the light, like in Seattle, they're building the light rail. So
Yeah.
will people even up in the suburbs need as many cars? And it doesn't, it's like they've solved one small part of the problem with light rail, right? But like
Uh-huh.
people still need cars, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's definitely always an issue. But
Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, so thanks for the story. That is an
Yeah.
interesting story, really.
I'm like,
Like,
I wish I had a funny one, but that was the first one that came
I
to me.
mean, it's kind of funny. Maybe it's too close to your like it was part of what you were doing. So it's like this isn't very
Yeah,
funny. But I mean,
right,
from the outside,
kind
it's
of.
kind of funny.
I know, it's fascinating. You're like, who thinks of these things, you know? Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy, crazy.
Well, thanks for answering. And then next question, when it comes to music, what is your music of choice, song maybe or artist that
Oh,
you listen to kind of get you going, whether it's in the morning or maybe pump you up in the day?
that's such a good question. I love music. Like I love I just love music. It's one of the things that just like gets me going in general. I have a playlist, an Apple playlist called Encouragement.
Okay.
And I started putting it together, adding songs to this playlist. And when I was right as I was like making the plan to leave my position, and because I was like, okay, like I need music to like keep me going. But I will tell you, it is an eclectic mix.
Oh
I've
yeah.
got some I'm a Christian, so I have a lot of Christian, modern Christian in there, but I also have some Katy Perry. I have some Gabby Barrett. I have some, let's see who else is in here. I know. I have just kind of a little bit of like everything in here. So I love country. I love random pop. There's this other guy that I ran across making a reel recently. It was Tim Halperin. He has this song Where the Adventure Begins that I just like. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that. Oh, I have Pink in there. So, oh, I definitely have Taylor Swift because
Okay.
you have to have some Taylor Swift in all your playlists, right?
I guess so.
Does she top yours? Does she top your playlist?
I don't think so. In fact,
No.
my boys roll their eyes anytime a Taylor Swift song comes on the air.
Oh yeah, you have
And I
both.
think it's mostly because they're just annoyed that it because of football and stuff, like we're
Oh,
watching a game and she gets a lot of airtime just
yes.
because she's dating
Oh yeah, she's
Travis
dating.
Kelsey.
Yes, yes. She's got a lot of new football fans, though I've heard.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
NFL's not hating it, that's for sure.
No, for sure, for sure. My girls
Well, thank
love
you.
Taylor Swift. My
Oh,
7-year-old.
okay.
Oh, she just turned 8 yesterday. She just turned 8.
Oh,
Happy birthday,
nice.
Macy.
Yeah.
She was asking me the other day if we could please go to her concert, and if I could
Mm,
only get 2 tickets that she wanted to go, and if I could possibly get a third ticket, then her sister could go. And so, and then I said, well, honey, I think the closest one is going to be in Canada soon,
yeah.
but the tickets are like thousands of dollars. And she had it all planned out. She said, Mom, we will go to Canada on the day that it is her concert. And then we will stand outside and see her when she's done with her concert. I'm like, oh, I wish it was that easy.
We're just gonna hang out.
Yes, totally. She had it all planned out. I was
I
like,
mean, if you just stand there, you'll hear it, right?
yes. Oh, for sure. Yes. I
So,
went to one of the first Eras Tour concerts in Dallas. And I heard there were people that were standing out like in the parking lot that's around that
uh
stadium, and they said they could hear the concert. So
yeah,
yeah.
they were probably having a sing along. They were just out there
Yeah.
singing along with
Singing
it. Yeah.
along. I love it.
Yeah. That's so funny. All
Mhm.
right. Well, thanks for answering and giving your playlist. And then
Mhm.
finally, when it comes to coffee or your caffeinated beverage of
Oh,
choice,
yes.
what's your go-to drink?
Well, right now it's pumpkin spice latte.
Okay.
I'm
It's
based
the
I know.
season.
Tis the season, but the oat milk, the what is it? The apple crisp macchiato made with
Oh
oat
yeah,
milk
yeah.
at Starbucks. I was super scared to try it because I was like, who wants apple in their coffee? But it
Yeah.
is so good. It's actually really
Yeah.
good. So I love all
I
the fall
actually
drinks. And then you what?
I recently had that. I got the cold brew with the cream on top.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I always do hot, even in the summer, I have to do hot coffee. So
Yeah.
hot coffee, but I'm a flavored latte girl. So, yeah. It can be from anywhere. It's not just Starbucks, but
Okay.
Starbucks, especially in the fall, is my favorite. If they could do
Yeah.
sugar-free pumpkin spice or something other than sugar-free vanilla at some point, that
Uh-huh.
would be awesome. But it's just
Yeah.
yeah, they just have sugar-free vanilla.
Yeah. No, I always ask to dial back the pumps of syrup.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
too much for
yeah.
me. It's too
It's a
sweet.
lot. It's a lot.
All right. Well, thanks for answering the
Yeah, sure. I
questions.
love that.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna get right into it. I'd love to start a little bit about your background in all things property management, your story in the industry, and for those that don't know you, get to know you a little bit, and then we'll talk about those other things.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to. Let's see, I moved out. I'm originally from the East Coast, and my career initially started in marketing in 1999. I knew I wanted to be in marketing. And so I got my first marketing job as a marketing specialist at a mall. So I worked in shopping center marketing for property management, but it was on the shopping center side.
All right.
So
More commercial and yeah. Okay.
yes, exactly. So I had a lot of that was back when malls did a lot of like events in malls. So if you're
Mm.
older like me, like you would remember like where they would have like tables and they would have like art shows and fashion shows and
And
tons
mini
of like,
concerts.
hmm?
And like even mini concerts and stuff.
Yes, totally, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then it start right when I was leaving. So I left. I worked for Trammell Crow when they owned shopping centers at the time, and then I went to work for Simon Property Group, which is the largest in the shopping center space, the largest owner operator of shopping centers. And I was a director of mall marketing, and for them. And I decided I wanted to move to the West to follow my sister out here, and in 2005 and had left my job and I had another large operator who wanted to offer me a job, but they wanted me to go to San Jose. And I was like,
Mm.
no, I'm moving west, but to live in Washington, not to live in California. So I put up my resume and some random way, that's when monster.com still worked. And like, I know, I was like, I say that sometimes and people are like, wait, you actually put your resume on there? And I was like, I did. And it worked twice. Actually, it worked for me in my career was monster.com, but it doesn't anymore. So I'm not encouraging that. I'm too old, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I got a call from what was now my first management company in the multifamily space. Um, and the SVP that was there at the time he said, I actually was hoping to find someone with retail experience because he said, I feel like wanted someone that thought about marketing differently. And this was back in 2005. And that was not a time. I mean, I know that our industry tends to not be one that thinks differently very quickly. So now I know that even then he was kind of thinking ahead of his time. And but that's how I was brought into the industry was I want someone to think differently. And so I was kind of like, that's what I went off into my career in multifamily with was
So what
that.
was it about retail that was interesting for them?
It was how retail at that time was engaging their customer. How were they finding what their customer wanted to hear? How were they finding what were they looking at in trends of driving traffic to their business? And because we were in the era of rate cards and the apartment guide covers. That were driving traffic, right? So we were doing as an industry at that time, if you think back, right, we were doing a lot of that broad net, right? So we were doing a lot of let me just get out in front of as many people as I can and not doing as much specific targeting. And we were just on that cusp of starting to really need to understand what it was like to understand personas and demographics. And so I got to enter the industry just as that kind of shift was happening.
Okay. Yeah, it's wild to think that we used to have literally physical magazines that were produced to find an apartment.
I remember the conversation that I had at my second company, Coniam, when I was at Coniam. I think I'm okay to say that. It was a really long time ago.
Yeah.
I remember the conversation that I had to say, why are we still doing print? I don't get it. Like I think we need to look at more online. And that's when ILSs were first getting really, really big, right? So this was 2008, 2009.
And when Craigslist was like all the rage.
Craigslist was huge then. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. We were just starting to do Facebook pages for properties. So I remembered I had hired someone just to my glasses. I went the other way. Just to do Facebook pages for properties. And so that was just 2009. I think beginning of 2009 is when that happened. Yeah.
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 Just shows how quickly we continue. I mean, some things actually have been, I think, progressing and getting improving ever since
Yeah.
kind of the introduction.
Yeah.
Some of these things have been moving pretty quick, I think.
They have,
Mostly
yeah.
probably in the marketing side of the business,
Mhm.
probably.
Yeah.
And then operations is probably a little slower.
Yes. Yes, and I know we're gonna talk about that later, but I mean, with all the tech stuff, it 100% is, and I think that there's very valid reasons for that, but it's hard. It's really, really hard when it comes to the operations
Yeah.
and, being ready and the level of, risk averse versus not, but marketing, I think, has taken on the brunt of the marketing teams have taken on the brunt of change management in the industry. It's kind of fascinating.
Yeah. Well, and that's
Mhm.
where you kind of left. That's where you
Yeah,
left off, right?
it is like, so I went from being a marketing director and going through the whole phase of when marketing and training were the same. So at Con Am, I was director of marketing and training, and so I did some training, and which was super fun. But I knew that marketing and strategy is like where I excelled, or my skills were probably more valuable. And I went to work for from there, I went to Riverstone, and as initially a regional director of marketing, then became a national director, and then became a co-vice president of marketing with my counterpart down in Florida, and then Greystar bought us, and so that was the whole Riverstone Greystar acquisition. Had a whirlwind ride there, and Greystar just, obviously is growing, growing, growing. But I got to be the director of marketing programs there, and that's where I credit the opportunity to start looking at and learning more about marketing and technology and how those things really were becoming so combined and becoming opportunities in our industry. And then I went to my previous management company that I just left. I went to Mac Property Management, and was spent almost just about 6 years there, the last 6 years, and getting to really dive into how technology departments, so IT systems, tech, marketing, BI, all kind of work together. And I had the opportunity there to really start to immerse myself in how we look at tech stacks and why we look at the stack, and instead of just individual point solutions.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity there for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's why, I mean, not the only thing that you're focused on, but that is a big part of our conversation today, and
Hmm.
something that you have a passion for in helping the industry think this through, because um, what we kind of talked about a few, weeks ago was how this tech thing has just landed on marketing.
Yes, 100%. And so here's the challenge is when you look at your org structure, if is the assumption that the leadership of marketing, or the even down to like a marketing specialist, so from a VP of marketing, to a marketing specialist, is okay, well, who's managing the lead management systems? Oh, marketing. We'll just send that to marketing. Oh, well, who's managing the self-guided tours? Oh, we'll just send that to marketing too. Oh, okay. Well, who's managing the websites? Oh, that's definitely marketing. When in all reality, it depends on the dependency for understanding or having an aptitude for how all of those systems talk to each other is not a
Mhm.
marketing skill. So if you're going to be a strategic marketer and you're going to help, your goal is to drive traffic, help increase customer experience satisfaction in order to increase revenue, then they have to be super focused on what we were just talking about with like understanding your marketing structure from a targeting standpoint, from a demographic standpoint, from understanding the comps, understanding the staff, understanding the product, right? So it's that what people price, product, promotion, all the P's, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's still very relevant to the marketing position. And really, their job in technology is to help vet how that message is received by the customer. So on the website, is it easy for a customer to find information? Is it easy for a customer to read the romance paragraph on the front page, right, of the website and say, "Oh, yes, like this is where I want to live"? Is it easy for them to promote a special? That's really like the goal of marketing with technology. Unfortunately, it has become, oh, my lead phone number is broken, or the lead email isn't coming to my email and I need you to fix it. Or I don't know how to add a unit to the self-guided tour technology. Can you help the staff do that? That's not where you're going to get your most value
Mm-hmm.
for your marketing team. So they're going to spend a lot more time trying to fix problems that really isn't their skill set.
Mm-hmm.
They will do it because it impacts the result of their goal. So if the lead management email address or the lead funnel email address is broken between an ILS and their lead management system, all day long, they're going to help fix it because
Mm-hmm.
it's impacting the property's ability to get leads. It is the marketing position's job to drive leads, right? Not to make sure that the lead is successfully navigating through the technology. That's a whole other skill set that we're
Right.
not thinking about. Yeah.
Right. So one of the things you even put here is really having um, a, a structure,
Mm-hmm.
a corporate overhead. And I mean, there's different layers to it too, because it goes all the way down to the site level and how they're dealing with the prop tech stack. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like they have their prop tech stack and it might overlap corporate's prop tech stack, but sometimes they
It's
have
a
their
little different.
operations.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I
so
I
who,
loved
from
what
an
you
overhead
said.
standpoint,
Yeah.
is going to manage it all? Is, I guess, the question.
100%. And I wrote down when you were doing your intro, I made a note here and I was like, oh my gosh, it's an excellent point. And one of the things that you said was um, you mentioned technology that the properties are selecting or that the properties might be looking at, or maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
a regional manager. And I would love just very briefly to give like encouragement to the property managers that might be watching this or regional managers who are like, oh my gosh, I found this great product and I want to use it. Where do I sign? How do I get this implemented? And then they make a call and their corporate office is like, meh,
Yeah.
right? And every single time that happens, there's a little piece of that property manager that's like, but I had a really good idea. And I think it's because the it's not widely known, I think, or educated at the or communicated the why. And so my plug is to keep looking at products, keep understanding what's out there, keep sending those ideas to corporate offices, keep asking to be part of the team that might be vetting technology at your company. Like, don't let that stop you. But the reality is that in order to implement and manage and maintain a technology, it takes a lot of work. And
Mm-hmm.
it might seem very simple to do it for your one property, which is
Right.
great, right? But if you go up that like through the organization, if your systems team isn't equipped to even really manage the stack that's in place and you start adding single point solutions for each property or maybe
Mm-hmm.
for each region, if there's not a very solid support structure in place, it's going to go south really quick. And then things are
Mm-hmm.
going to get broken and get ignored and that's where you start to have technology that you're paying for but not using,
Right.
or you have duplicate things. And that is when an asset manager or an investor is going to say, cut the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And so my encouragement just a kind of a soapbox plug, right? My encouragement is to really like consider if you have an idea, like I said, keep going, keep talking about your idea, but try to take 2 steps back and think about like everything that will be impacted for that idea to be implemented. Um, because that's why there's that like kind of like friction between, well, why can't we use that product? And it's usually because the corporate office doesn't have the staff or structure to manage it.
Mhm.
And um, shoot, I did my soapbox and then I forgot your it was something about the properties, and I was like, that's what made me think I
Oh,
wanted.
yeah, it's being
Yeah.
able to, the site level, you
Hmm.
have marketing, you have regionals, you have site level that are
Hmm.
all potentially having their own solutions or
Yeah.
ideas.
Hmm.
And then, site levels picking something like even our product, right?
Yeah.
So parking, they have a parking problem. So they need to fix their parking. So they pick us. Well, from a corporate standpoint, corporate may not know that.
Right. Right. Yes,
And then they can't
100%.
support them, and they can't troubleshoot. They can't verify that it works with their systems. They can't verify that it is the best one, you
Yep.
know?
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. So it's like making sure like every company should have a very well communicated like technology vetting process, right? And so I think that it's important to have an opportunity in that process to have on-site teams, regional managers, maintenance teams, everybody, right? Like have the opportunity to contribute to that process. So, hey, I heard about this thing and I know like parking is the least of what we're concerned about right now, but I think maybe as we get closer to budgeting, like we should consider this. But it's always too like doing the homework and making sure that you can explain if you have that idea, if you're a property manager or maintenance director, and you have an idea for adding community boss, let's say to your tech stack, going with, oh, I think this is just going to be a great partnership. Like that's not anymore how they're going to be looking at why we should add something, right?
Mhm.
So the people that you're taking that idea to are going to be looking at like, okay, what's the cost? What's the return? What's the impact to value of the asset?
Mhm.
How does it integrate? And integrate means 50 different things depending on what system you're talking about. And so really making an effort to understand that side of it and going with a well thought out proposal to add something
Mhm.
is going to get you a lot farther than just, oh, I really love Evan. He's awesome.
Well,
You
and what you're saying is a really great thing for companies like ours to
know?
hear too,
Mhm.
because the hardest thing is when we're selling to an individual
Yep.
who then has to take what you told them and sell it to somebody else.
Mhm. Yeah.
They're really excited about it, but now they got to convince they got to convince probably their regional, and then
Yep.
their regional, if they're bought in, is probably then going to somebody else.
Mhm.
So you have these like telephone layers,
Yep.
and then when it gets to this person over here, they don't fully understand, but they're like, okay, I guess.
Mhm.
I mean, if you say that it needs to happen, we'll go with it.
Yeah. And I think too, like part of that is in the whole scheme of or vibe of like really partnering is for the sales people in with solutions, the sales teams with different solutions to understand um, that by selling to a property manager um, who is part of a larger organization, especially if they're a small mom and pop, right, organization, like it might not be as big a deal. But with as most management companies exist today, if you sell to a property manager and you allow a property manager to make that decision in a silo, it's actually not setting them up for success. It's not setting you up for success as the point solution.
Mhm.
Because yes, it may have gotten you the sale, but it will not lead to expanded usage necessarily with the organization. It will not lead to building trust with the organization.
Mhm.
In most cases, you've frustrated the systems people at that point. And so they're like, oh, we don't like that product. Not because they
Right.
really don't like the product, but it's because they went through a property manager instead of saying, hey, property manager, I'd love, if you love this, can you help us be an advocate for us, an ally for us in this process, and
Mhm.
really help to teach, equip. I love what you said about like that being an opportunity for your teams too, to say like, gosh, like, what is the value I'm bringing? Let me
Mhm.
help the property manager create that story, be able to take that story and not think that they can't be helpful in the sales process because they certainly can. But they have to be educated. They have to be
Right.
resourced and equipped. Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have to be able to say the things that that other person's going to care about. Because on site, you're like, these are the things I need to worry about and
Hmm.
fix. But those same things may not be that important to the person that's in the level above you, right?
Yeah.
They're a different department. I mean, I when I go to Optech, for instance, and I talk to people that are at Optech, some of those people are removed, pretty far removed from the
Yes.
on-site, right? They're making
Hmm.
decisions from an operations standpoint and technology for the company, but they don't necessarily know the pain points. I've
Yeah.
had numerous conversations at those events where I'm talking to somebody and they're like, "Oh yeah, I tell them what we do. We're just sitting and having lunch at one of the tables, and they're like, "Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we don't have any parking problems." And I'm like, "Interesting. Do you
None.
not?"
Zero.
Okay. Zero. Interesting. Even though parking tends to be like one of the major pain points at a community, none. Interesting. Okay. Well,
That's amazing. I know. And you're like, can I just like peek behind your curtain for 5 minutes? What's happening? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I love
So
it.
that kind of thing is like
Yeah,
when you have all these different stakeholders, there does need to be a selling story for each one,
totally.
especially if you're not the person from a salesperson standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
But back to the kind of the rub is like from the operations side, it's
Mhm.
only implementing things that work well with the whole system
Mhm.
and preventing all these overwhelming situations where there's too
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's eating away at your budget, and then you have people burning out because they're like, I don't even know how any of it
Mhm.
works.
Exactly. And so I think part of the challenge is as an industry, we tend to overinvest right now. Anyway, it's changed. It's not the same anymore. We used to need more regional managers, more property managers, more leasing consultants, more people to run the properties. And the required skill sets are changing um, that need to run operations. But it's also and I say this very carefully because I think we have the people, we're just using them potentially in the wrong ways,
Mm,
is the number that we need, the load that we need for regional managers, let's say, is a lot different, should be a lot different now because the job should change. And we're not changing the job, I think, as quickly as we should to
mhm,
respond to what we need in tech. And so what ends up happening is the regional manager ends up being responsible to understand how all the tech works, how what the KPIs and the benchmarks and the going to all the dashboards and making sure that their site team is trained when regional managers don't have time to attend all the trainings themselves,
right.
right? So because they're called in a million different directions. And so then when they look to the systems teams or the IT teams or whoever's managing technology and they say help, and those teams are like, I can't, okay, like I had a training, I had 3 trainings, I'm done. Like I can't keep helping because I don't have enough people, right?
Mhm,
And so it's really, I think, about taking a step back and looking at like, what is the structure? What do we actually need to run the property? Even if you believe in centralization or not, whatever, like that's a whole other conversation. But what do you actually need to run the property? And how do you manage the technology and maintain it in a way that the property manager can go in and feel successful every day. We're not doing that as an industry. We instead are saying, property manager, go in and just figure out the systems and make sure you watch the videos and make sure you do this, because we buy technology, especially at the higher levels, the C-suite, executive suites, buy technology assuming that the vendor, the SaaS provider, is going to do most of that management and maintenance of the product, and it's not true. Um, and I say that in the most supportive way possible, right? It's because the same way that maybe a property manager doesn't understand why a corporate team would select one product over another, the executive teams at companies and the sales teams and implementation teams at SaaS companies don't speak the same language. And so they don't really understand when it says, oh, we're going to turn this on for you and it's going to change your life. The executive team is like, thank you. I needed that, right? Please help me save all this time. And that's not what happens. And they're not doing it maliciously. They really know that their product can help. But if you don't have someone on your side who understands the long-term implementation, management, maintenance, training, updates, how to educate on updates, how to educate on value of a product, it's just not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the silver bullet? How do we fix it?
We change our org charts. Your org charts. I'm on this like mission, right? Like, so there's two things. One is I think that there are a lot of people in the industry. So one of the things that I wanted to do when I went out on my own with Why Not was I want to be that translator between prop tech companies and operators. So I want to work with both sides to help them, either like if you're an operator, help you understand what the tech side is doing, not doing, what they will do, what you pay for, like what you're paying for, and what you don't pay for. So what you need to pay for on your side, what you need to invest in. And I want to help operators understand that the staffing that needs to be in place to truly manage your tech stack. At the Multifamily Women's Summit last week, I shared one of the things that I'm very passionate about people understanding is that your IT department is not who's going to manage your tech stack. IT is the software and hardware that run your business, that run your organization, that run your management company, right? It's not the team that understands what all of your technology is doing and how it's working. And you can't, it's apples and oranges, right?
Yeah.
So don't assume that it's your IT team, because it's not. But on the SaaS side, on the vendor side, I really, really, really want to help, because I think that there's so much opportunity for them to really understand what's happening on the operator side when they hear words, when they hear, oh, implementation support, when they hear training, when they hear integration, like what the management company is actually thinking and how they can adjust the way that they're selling their technology and supporting their technology to create long-term partnership and loyalty instead of just closing a sale.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're running into this stuff constantly, personally. Like, and I wasn't a part of technology until joining this company. So it's been a journey of learning myself, almost 4 years into it. And there's so much that I have learned. And one of the biggest things is exactly what you're talking about, that they're such a varying org chart from company to company, and you got different size companies. But in every case, it seems there isn't a person really that's in charge of this.
Yeah. They're not. You have to, I mean, the skill set that you have to start looking for are people who are at least understanding of enterprise architecture, application management, general like technology integration, right? Software integration. But I would say enterprise architecture is probably one of the key places to start looking for a position like that. And um, and have that person look at everything that's in the technology that runs the resident and accounting portion, right? So it's like payments and property management system information and yes, and with the influx of AI, that is going to change even how those pieces are done. And so I guarantee you the people that are on your team right now are not going to be experts in how to layer on AI into your tech stack, guaranteed. And that's not a dig on anyone, right?
No.
That's just not a skill set that anyone has.
Right.
So we have systems teams that are expected to be the implementers, troubleshooters, ticket takers, fixers, ongoing management of the tools, right? So it's looking at how do we like focus this percentage of our team on just implementation and this percentage of the systems team on ongoing value prop building and testing and adding and working with the vendor, right, to say like, hey, let's test this, let's do the fun stuff, because it's usually the same people that are doing the hard conversations about what's not working as who wants to have the conversations about what we can do. And it just, you can't have both people or that one person being both of those people.
Well, and it just seems like for everybody, if you had a department dedicated to this, like you had somebody that was overarching in charge that was like looking at the big picture, and then you had kind of people that were just like you have regional marketing people, you would need regional tech people like operations and even the marketing, like all things hitting the ground floor operations at an on-site community.
Yes.
Like them then supporting the on-site people, right? They know how it works. They recommend what you should use. Oh, you have a parking issue. Here's the thing you use. You have a marketing issue. Here's the thing you use. You're trying to, like all those things, right? But I mean, ideally, they'd be somebody that is familiar with what it's like to work on site.
Yes. Yeah. And at least, go work at a site, and they, I get flack sometimes because I didn't start on site but I did spend at Con-Am. I had the opportunity being in training to spend a lot of time on site, right? So even though I didn't work on site specifically, I spent a lot of time at multiple sites in the office. And so I got to work. It just wasn't where my home base was, right? But but it's important, I think, for every position, whether you're IT or accounting or tech or marketing, whatever you are, that you do go spend time at a property, a couple of different types of properties, so you can see, like you said, what they're experiencing, kind of take it all in, think about it big picture, and you can come up with great solutions. It just takes some creativity sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we figured it out right here. We just got to convince everybody else.
I know. I'm like, it's just moving some boxes around on your org chart, and it's hard, because people are like, well, it takes too much money, too much corporate overhead. And then you're like, okay, well, how many regional managers do you have? And not that I'm saying get rid of regional managers. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying like, look at how much you're investing in your operations. If you invested a similar portion, or you're not investing a similar portion into the management of your tech, right? Then you're off balance. So if anything, if you're looking at like, where do I even start to see if I'm out of whack, or if I need to reconsider my structure. Everybody's doing budgets right now. don't just look at your payroll budget on the corporate
Mhm.
side as one big lump sum. And sometimes you don't want to just use general categories, but you want to really look at like, okay, regional managers to tech support management oversight.
Mhm.
What's the balance there? And if you're heavier on the regional manager side, then you really might want to really look at where you can bring add some money to the tech side to help, because that's really where we're not investing enough right now as a industry.
Yeah. I mean, something that just came to mind just right now as you were talking is, would it make any sense, especially for a third party management company, to come up with a tech stack and all the costs involved and have a menu and say
Mhm,
these are the ones we use, and
mhm,
then when they're approaching an asset manager or an owner
mhm,
and they're giving a proposal of how they, the cost of using us,
mhm.
just include the technology as part of your cost. And then it's
So
like nothing else cost wise, just here you go.
yes. Well, it's so funny that you say that. I know there are management companies out there, and I won't share any trade secrets, but I know that there are management companies out there that do that, that they have either a menu of this is or of one stack and this is what we
Yeah.
use, and they charge like a tech fee. So it's a percentage of management plus that fee, right?
Hmm.
Per month. And that's all the tech's included. It's just a flat rate every month. So instead of
Right.
per system. And then there are also companies that I know of that have like a few different options. Like you can choose this option or this option or this option, but you pick an option and this is what you get with it. If you want
Hmm.
something different, or if you want like, it's not a la carte, right? Like it's like,
Hmm.
if you do want to add that lead management system with this property management system, you are gonna have to pay for that. And there is gonna be an overhead charge. And so they kind of integrate. The challenge is if, and this goes up to like asset management, investor, venture capital, investment capital levels, is understanding um, the management company um, profit margins. So it's if you can help a management company track their profit margin on a tech stack flat rate, um, and help the asset manager see the value of that,
Hmm.
I think that's a great idea. I love it.
Especially for things that
Mhm.
contribute from
Yeah.
a NOI or any added value. Like, all
Mhm.
right, you can charge for parking, you can charge for different parts of your community that maybe otherwise you wouldn't, the
Right.
use of different amenities, or even
Mhm.
just, the trash or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
all the different various ways you can.
Yes. Yes. We have to start getting creative, outside of a standard lender agreement, outside of standard, because some of that is dictated, right, in the PMAs and the lender agreements and what you're allowed to charge for versus not, and what you're
Mhm.
allowed to have. And sometimes it depends on who the investor is. And there's so many caveats that if at the investor level, the ownership level, we can get to more, again, understanding risk averse versus risk opportunity, and understanding that property management in all the economies, the good and the bad and the ugly, right? Like the management side of the business is what's keeping these properties afloat, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's rent decrease, rent upcrease, increase, upcrease. I just made up a word.
There we go.
Rental increases, whatever the economy is, the management company's there. The management company's on the ground. The management company, whether you're buying buildings, developing buildings, that it's the management company. And if the up to the top levels aren't helping the management company be successful, that ultimately like their returns are not going to be successful. So if they're allowing a management company to be creative in their org chart, to be creative in how they build technology, they give them more leverage or leniency on those things, they're going to help ultimately the returns increase. And it's a lot of that is very abstract right now. And so I think that's the difficult part, right? Is that they want to be able to put black and white numbers into boxes. And
Right.
but we have to help create a picture for them. And that can be hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a big topic. I mean, I think we're at a point where we have to start thinking about how we're going to make these decisions, how we're going to put together the right mix of people from an operations standpoint to support things. Because,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the tech isn't going anywhere. It's here.
Yeah, exactly. I tell people just stay curious, ask lots of questions. People, I know I drive people insane because I'm like, but why do you do that? Or where's that? Why do you do? Because I want to know. I just want to know. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
And if you're in meetings, just ask a lot of questions, try to understand the big picture. And everybody can be part of this solution.
Yeah.
We just don't think in our tunnels, don't think, you've got to think broadly and work together.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
actually have a question. So, how many times have you been to Apartmentalize?
Oh, just a couple actually. I don't go to Apartmentalize
Or
that
just in
often.
general,
Yeah,
like
maybe like
different
3 or 4.
conventions? So,
Oh,
if
and
you
conferences in general.
Yeah, so, like,
Even
ones that have trade shows and things like that.
so,
I'm sure, like, if you went back to 2005 when you got into the industry, and then you think through 20
yep,
years later where we
yep,
are now,
yep.
who was at those conferences? Because now it's like 50% technology,
Yeah.
whereas 10 years ago, I don't know. I wasn't there, but I can't imagine it was nearly that much.
No, I mean, you had your ILSs, of course. Because they were trendy and trending and they were big, and you had your property management systems as far as
Yeah,
like the service, the service providers. But then you would have like Shaw Carpet, like the national carpet people or paint people or
yeah.
insurance, national insurance people. Not that insurance is boring, but it's boring. Hey, insurance people can be fun, just like parking people, right?
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, I mean, it's all tech point solution. A lot of it is point solutions now. And
Yeah.
what I'd love to see at like a dream would be like if you could create rows in these trade shows of like a tech stack,
I'm with you.
right?
Everybody's always like, "Oh, but then you're next to your competition and that's bad." Why is that bad? That
I
either
don't,
makes you look good or bad, and that's
I
your
don't,
fault.
I know. Like, let's look at like how all these pieces, like here's like, if you're a management company that is like this size, row F is a
It's
perfect tech
it's
stack for you.
it's just like going to a grocery store.
Yes.
You just have aisles of food or tech or sh
Mhm.
carpet or whatever. I'm like,
Yep. You make the
then
rice, and then you put
well,
this
right
on top of the
now
rice, and then yeah.
managing those trade shows is ridiculous. How are you supposed to find what you need? Because
No.
everything's spread out. And so you see like a portion, but maybe you only need to see certain tech things. All
Mhm.
right. Well, then that's better for all those companies because you
Yeah.
actually will get people that are interested in you.
Exactly, and it's hard. It's just hard. It is so hard, and I know that that's a conversation, like, that some of the associations are having, and is how do they make the trade shows and the experience just more fruitful for people, but come on. Like, I was actually just on the TIFF Talks podcast, and we kinda were joking. If you haven't listened to it yet, you should listen to it. There's a plug for the TIFF Talks one, but TIFF Talks
All
Tech.
right.
But
Okay.
she
Yeah. Yeah.
she was saying how she like looks down. She goes into trade show floors and she'll look down just so she doesn't have to like, oh hey, oh hey, oh hey. And I said, I'm one of those that like, well, now I can't do it anymore because they print on both sides usually. But I used to walk into trade show floors and especially when I was at Riverstone and Greystar, because everybody is like, oh, you're this person at Greystar. I really want to talk to you. I would turn my name tag around on purpose
Mm.
because a lot of people didn't know like my face. So I would be like, boop. Like, it's too much. It's too much. But if you made it
Yeah.
intentional for people, I think there'd
Yeah,
be
because then you'd get people walking your aisle because they're
yeah,
actually curious.
Totally.
You look at the
Yep.
map. Oh, this is all prop tech.
Mhm.
Cool. I know what I'm getting into.
Yep, exactly, exactly. I know. See, look at us solving all the problems.
I know. All right. Well, we'll just
Just
submit
yeah.
this to NAA
NAA
and
and NMHC and all the associations. Yep. We have your solution, guys.
it's right here.
It's right here.
Well, there was one last thing, and you hit on it a little bit, but was there anything that did you want to add to the part where specific questions that operators should be asking their
Oh,
SaaS
mhm,
partners?
mhm. Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for operators to really truly understand is the implementation, like this implementation load and the ongoing management. Like when you hear the word training, when you hear the word implementation support, like there's a tangible to that that I think most operators don't fully grasp or understand of what the reality is going to look like. So I think really getting into the nitty-gritty on that and really pushing that and saying like, no, I actually need to understand, like, send me your training schedule. How many hours is it? Do you offer it a second or third time
Mm,
for people who are going to be new? Because
right.
unfortunately, the SaaS companies don't have the staff to do more than one or two, typically, right? Like implement onboarding trainings.
Mm,
And if you ask for another one, unfortunately, the answer is often no, which is such that could be a whole other podcast, right? But so you have to understand as a management company where you're going to have to supplement for the tool to be successful. And all day long, you're going to say, I shouldn't have to pay for this. No, you really shouldn't. Like if you're paying for a tool, you should be able to get as many trainings as you want, but it's just not real. It's just not scalable for the SaaS company as well. So those that would be my encouragement is just ask about those tangibles even if it feels tedious to really
well,
understand so then you can prep your team.
yeah, I
Hmm.
I agree with you, except I think it is imperative that a company that is providing a service to an industry that has turnover that can be frequent, if you want your technology to get used, you got to show them how to use it.
Yeah.
That's your job.
Yeah.
Like, and so we do that. Like,
That's awesome.
if you have new people, how are they going to use it?
I
They
know
don't know how to use it.
they don't, and it's
And
like
that
sending
means
them.
that
Yeah.
means they're going to stop using it. They're going to cut it.
Yeah. And sending them to your LMS, which is a great start. I love saying like, hey, there's a video to just get your awareness, but then take this live training, or like one video or a little bit of video training is not going to work. And it's a great start. It's a good effort or intention. It has good intention. It's just not realistic that that's going to be the solution.
Yeah.
And don't charge for follow-up trainings. It's the worst to be
Yeah.
a client and get told you have to pay to be trained to use the product. It is
Yeah.
such like, ugh. But it's,
Well,
it's like you
yeah.
said, the
No, I
turnover.
hear you on that. One of the
Mhm.
things that are you familiar with HubSpot?
I am.
Okay. So we use HubSpot. Great things that HubSpot provides. But the thing, like you're saying, that
Yeah.
is annoying is the additional costs you have to put in for the
Mhm.
training aspect.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, well, why are you selling this product that then I have to pay to know how to use?
Mhm. And you know what they say on the back end? I know what they're saying. They're saying it's because we're the software is the service. The people are not the service. It's the software that's the service. And I'm like, hmm. I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Who's going to use the software if they don't know how
Yeah.
to use it? Yeah.
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 Was there any other questions you would propose people ask?
Gosh. I mean, I think it is the making sure you understand the support structure. So again, it's again all about how you're going to have to supplement and the load. So I think every time I got in trouble with an implementation or stuck in an implementation, it's because I didn't have a full understanding of the workload that was going to be required on my team to run the implementation. So I think that is a huge need for the management company to ask. And then the pipeline, so understanding like what features are coming. Are there features that you've been wanting in other products or even looking for in other products that maybe you could wait for? If a if a partner that you're going to start working with, um, you know, has that in its and you're able to wait a little bit, and they have that in their development pipeline, maybe you can wait and not have to implement like another technology while you're waiting for that one. So that's always interesting to me to know is the development pipeline. So I think that's those are some good ones for the initial vetting, and then understanding once you've implemented the product, what their partnership is to help you continue to internally sell and create buy-in in the product. It's like, how often can I get together with you and really talk about numbers and results, and making sure that you understand that their reports match, like their numbers match what your numbers match. So some examples I've given previously on this are, if you're a marketing partner and you're like, we convert this many leads according to our numbers, but convert to them and convert to you mean 10 different things. Then make sure that you're talking about the same numbers. So that way you can create value for each other in those conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, thank you for all those tips because they're very helpful, I think, for both me and anybody else that's going to watch, both from the supplier side and the operations side. Which just to me, I'm just going to shamelessly plug you.
Oh,
you are
thanks.
for hire, and she obviously knows what she's talking about. So, Angela, you should totally hire her to help you with these specific things, because it's one thing to hear them, but it's another thing to implement them.
Yeah, it totally is.
And to have somebody else from the outside who's been on the operations side in property management to look at your tech, for instance, from a supplier standpoint, and go, all right, well, this is where I see the value of your solution, and this is how you could communicate that value to somebody like an operator.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard sometimes when you are staring at your own strategies and your own org chart and your own budgets and your own tech stack for year after year after year. And I think that's what I love, is just being able to provide a different perspective and possibilities, because I think that possibilities for sure can be endless if we just are creative enough and open enough. So yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, Angela, I really do appreciate us having this opportunity to talk and to, work through this conversation. And again, we figured it out. We came up with the roadmap for the industry. So let's put it together. Let's go.
Exactly. Let's fix this thing. And then go team.
That's right. Here we go.
Yes.
But no, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you just sharing all your knowledge that you've built over the last 20 years, because without that kind of just sharing and giving tips, giving people insight, we really can't move forward and get better. So it's just so great to have you here and to share why you're a boss at what you do and what you've done in your career. So appreciate you being here today.
Thanks for having me. This was great. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Well, just like Angela jumped on and was the boss of the week here on Boss Talks, you too can be the boss of your own episode. So if you're interested and you have things you're passionate about and want to share with this industry in multifamily residential housing, I would love to get to know you and share your story with others. So if you're interested, reach out to me and we can make it happen. But until next time, this has been Boss Talks. We're taking a break next week. We're going to FAA down in Florida. So if you're down there and you see me, say hi. but we'll get back to it in a couple weeks for another episode. So till next time, it's been Boss Talks. Thanks so much. Talk to you guys later.